work. Yep, there we are. All right. Oh man, am I excited about today. Welcome to CEO Zone's YouTube and live stream series for Chief Executive Officers and Professional Directors. I'm Bill Forster, the CEO of CEO Zones. My guest today is my new friend, Pete Schramm. He's a mechanical engineer, a best-selling author, and founder and CEO of Latitude. Pete realized that even the best technology fails without human connection. He's now on a mission to fix the retention crisis by helping organizations build intentional belonging. His best-selling book, Pathfinders, outlines how to navigate your career map by building your own personal board of advisors. Welcome, Pete.
Thanks, Bill. And just for everybody that's out there listening, I sent him a bio and he upgraded it by about 4 levels there. So thanks, Bill, for the even kinder intro and overview there.
Well, I tried to make it shorter. And at the same time, because they didn't come here to see my face for radio, they came here to meet you. And those on the podcast, they really don't need to hear me either. I don't have a lot to say. In any event, Pathfinders, you kind of set it out where you say you can't build a career map alone. And there's probably CEOs, professional directors themselves thinking about, well, who is my really tight network of non-board members, non-direct reports? How do I get a board of advisors? So I guess my first thought there would be, forcing you to summarize the whole book in one quick question. How do you go about building your own board of advisors?
So I'm going to start with a little bit of a story.
Sure.
Right? You shared, I grew up on a farm in Western Pennsylvania. I went into engineering and defense contracting for a decade. And my whole why up to the start of my professional career was how to better the lives of others, right? That's what my parents taught me while I was picking corn and shoveling manure. And then whenever I got into, Lockheed Martin, I asked my boss and I said, hey, how can I be the best employee that you ever had? And he said, go find yourself a mentor. So, okay, good. What's that mean? Where do I find one? What do we talk about? How do we go through this process? And he's like, well, you kind of figure it out as you keep progressing. And it's just one of those things that builds over time. I said, okay, we got an SOP for absolutely everything, but not this piece that is paramount to our growth and progress inside this organization. So fast forward 5 years, and I had knocked on a bunch of different doors, and I had trial and errored my way through this, Bill. But you know what? I found a couple of folks that said, hey, I'll take a shot on you. You seem to have your stuff together. You got a good attitude. You're on time. You're attentive. You're responsive. And so after a couple of years of that, they said, hey, Pete, would you potentially help others and guide them? And I'm like, well, shoot, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I'll tell them what doesn't work. And I'll tell them how I had to, figure out these different mentoring people. And I was like, yeah, I'll help. You were helping me, and I'd love to be able to pay it forward. So this idea, comes from growing up. My dad would always say, hey, if you're going to, eat 1 plate of vegetables, 2's probably better. If you're going to do 10 push-ups, 20's probably better. If you're going to have one mentor, a couple are probably better. So getting to your first piece of what is this idea of a personal board of advisors? You might call it a personal board of directors. It's been talked about for over 100 years. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. You could call it a mosaic of mentors, but just think about the couple of people that are guiding you and you're bouncing ideas off of. You don't even want to call it personal board of advisors. That's okay. That's just how I call it. And what I found throughout those 5 years of having those conversations, which is now over 10 years ago, is that it was helpful to have something in front of us when we were having that conversation. Some of that was talking points, some questions, and then they'd ask like, hey, where do you want to go? Individual contributor, leader, technical, business, ops, growth, executive, what do you want to do? And a lot of times, Bill, I said, I don't really know. But as we started to map this out, the conversations became a lot more productive. So that's what the whole book talks about, is finding and outlining. We define what those 10 potential board seats are, and then we give a 5-dimension career map to come up with this Pathfinders methodology. And the cool part is you can do it with a pencil and paper. It doesn't have to require a lot of technology. We'll get in to how we can add some structure and rigor and accountability to the process with some tech. But
Right.
that, in a nutshell, is who can guide you and where do you want to go?
Excellent. Now, you use some terms that I think, like all good companies have their own language, right? Like, it's my pleasure is probably the Ritz Carlton and Chick-fil-A are the two companies that come to mind there. So you use some words like challenger, accountability partner. A CEO probably has some trouble, and I had this trouble early on of getting someone who was willing to challenge me or hold me accountable because I was the boss, or I was the boss of a bigger company than they were, or I was their investor. So how do you help a chief executive or a professional director with some of those challenger accountability type things? Because you want good feedback, right? But
Yeah.
it's hard to get.
So we have challenger, naysayer, and cheerleader are a
Okay.
couple of potential board seats that I don't specifically outline, but I allude to, and they may be helpful. The reason that I don't call those out as specific board seats is because I think every one of our mentors, mentees should have a little bit of cheerleader tendencies, a little bit of challenger tendencies, a little bit of naysayer tendencies, a little bit of reverse mentoring tendencies in there, because any of these folks on that inner circle that we're truly going to for advice and guidance and support and strategy and growth, we want them to tell us what we need to hear, not just what we want to hear. So if we think about this in two different buckets, right? As a CEO, how can I put this concept into play? And then the second thing we'll touch on briefly is for my organization, what that may look like. Let's hit on the first one, Bill, of as a leader, I'm super busy. I have a lot of things going on, but I still have those that are guiding me, right? I'm going to bounce ideas if it's a strategic decision, if it's something outside of work. Think about who those individuals are, that maybe it's a peer, right? We could have somebody that's maybe not more senior in experience wise to you, but it's somebody that we're maybe an accountability partner or an ally, or it could be somebody that's an advocate for us, right? Opening up those doors like a sponsor
Right.
would in that capacity. Maybe it's a buddy. And it's very interesting as I do work with executive groups around the country. This every single time people raise their hands and say, "Hey, you're telling me I don't need that buddy, that informal board seat, as much as I progress through my. I think I need that more and more, and I want two buddies, not just one." I said, "Okay, well let's Bruce Lee this real quick, right? Absorb what is useful, discard what is not, and add what is uniquely your own." Sounds like you're making that uniquely your own right there. So that's the idea. If we can't find somebody that's necessarily above us, then maybe look at your organizational board of trustees, board of advisors, board of directors, or a peer from another organization. Because whenever we don't, consult others and get guidance and ask for feedback and growth, that's whenever we stop growing. The second piece of it is whenever we think about this, of how I, as the leader, Mr. Mrs. CEO, how can we drive, growth and development to ultimately, increase the organization's success, but as well as retention through this engagement. And oh, by the way, this is going to help attract great talent. So ask, your folks, how many people have a mentor? How many people have more than one mentor? How many people have at least one mentor or two mentors inside this organization? And how many conversations have you had with each one over the last 6 months? Pretty simple way to start on that side, and to also encourage, if you have the availability, right? Hey, I'm willing to mentor a couple of people. CEOs will see a lot of times, Bill, they'll do like fireside chat style. So they'll bring
Right.
a few folks in together at a time, or, maybe they'll have, lunch sessions, but also to share with your, C-suite and, some of the senior leadership, to encourage others to reach out to them. And hopefully some high pos are already kind of nudged in there, high potential talent,
Right.
uh, because so many people say, "Oh my gosh, that Bill guy, he's so stinking busy. I could never approach him. I could never, ever do that. He's not going to have the time of day for me. And you're thinking, my gosh, I'm sitting here, my door's open. Why are people not coming over and asking me questions? And so
Exactly.
it's kind of the chicken and the egg piece. The second part of part two there is to ask how many of your people in your workforce have a career map. And we can get into a little bit of the questions around what that looks like. But really simply put, it's hey, I have an idea of what I want to do 10 years from now. I have an idea of what those steps are to get there. And I have an idea of where I need to go at the interim pieces, what I need to do to get to each of those steps. And I have a plan of who can guide me. So that's who, what, when, where, how.
Okay. I'm going to ask a difficult question. So you've got the book, you've kind of verbalized it. We know you're a keynote speaker, but CEOs and directors, the retention crisis is out there. Even this morning on the news, TSA, we're going to pay people not to retire to be an air traffic controller. We're going to pay people to show up and just do their job that we thought we were paying them for. We're going to give them a bonus if they show up, right? So the retention crisis is everywhere. How does software help you operationalize mentorship, causing the like me, I have my personal, I call them council of advisors, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
my term. Uh, my personal peers who are CEOs, board members of other companies, own their own things, but they give me advice. And after decades of having that same council of advisors, every once in a while we switch them up, but when they tell me something, it's not a big long thought process. It's, oh gosh, they're probably right, right? So how do you take technology now and bring that to life? Because a book is wonderful. It's a wonderful how-to for one, but our audience is CEOs, and they've got hundreds of employees, if not thousands, spread around
Mm-hmm.
the world. So they need technology. I babbled
So
on
you
enough.
you
Go for
you
it.
you touched on the pain point there, and I want to drive that knife in a little bit more so that we can work with the research and the stats here and give an opportunity for all of our listeners today, now, and in the future to kind of compare and contrast. So I got 10 bullet points that I put together in preparation for this so we
Okay.
can talk about the issues that we're facing.
Okay.
31% of employees, sorry, in the United States are engaged, right? That is lowest it's been in a decade. This costs the country about $500 billion, and that number fluctuates from $500 billion to $7 trillion. It's a big deal. Nearly half of workers are eyeing exits, and I think it was Worker Intention Survey said 48% of people say that they're likely to search for a new job in the next 12 months. Think about that as a way that you could be attracting individuals to your organization. If somebody's pushing them away, then give them a reason to run to you. So if we don't show a future for our people and growth, we're going to lose them. Pew Research, it's about a decade that one of the number one reasons for people departing is no map to growth. No growth and development opportunities, or lack of growth and development opportunities inside an organization. That's their words, their research, not mine. And that's going back to, every year since 2010. And so that's about 17% of the exits. Whenever we think about the reports from Gallagher's 2024 US Career Wellbeing Report, it says career development is one of the top drivers of engagement and retention. These people are going to have 34% higher retention whenever we see career development opportunities. 43% of people said that they lack growth opportunities. And then similar research said about half the managers don't know how to even have these conversations. So it's a big issue. Then we get into this piece of mentorship.
What happened? Oh, are you
All right,
back?
are we back?
Whoa! I think we had the Cloudflare cloud issue there. I apologize to
That's all
everyone.
right.
We're going to give you a couple minutes to maybe back up and just that last thought, I think, is where we lost you.
Yeah. So the final stats in this are, whenever people are mentored, it's like more than 70% that they're going to stay as mentees, and the mentors are almost twice as likely to stay whenever they're doing this. So that's the idea of, hey, let's put something in place. Oh, by the way, LinkedIn found like 5-6 years ago that more than 94% of people said that
Right.
they'd stay if there was a map to growth and opportunities to grow inside. So this idea and the research of, hey, let's get some people guidance and connect them together, and let's put a little bit of a plan in place. Gosh, that'd be fantastic. Now, to your question there, Bill, of how do we do this for our hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of people? Well,
Right.
what if there was a way that we could guide people through a process where they're able to virtually, digitally put together a map of where they've been, where they are, and where they want to go and grow in the future
Right.
with multiple paths and get feedback? That's what we do with Latitude. And then once you have a plan, wouldn't it be great to get suggestions of who I could or should have a conversation with? That's what we do with Latitude. Say, hey, not just there's 150 people in your department. Go, pick a needle out of a needle stack and guess what you should know. So we say, hey, here's 2 or 3 people you could have a conversation with based on what that potential board seat is. We suggest the talking points. Again, Bruce Lee, if you like it, use it. If you don't, change it. If you don't, try something else. But the talking points to remove the friction along the way of what do I ask you and you ask me. That's inside the tool. We couple in our own engagement survey that so we can measure progress along the way, as well as along with a personality assessment, so that we have a little bit more of, hey, I can understand a bit of who Bill is, and Bill can understand a bit of who Pete is. So we have the piece of mapping where I can go and grow, the multiple people that can guide me, what to discuss along the way, the survey capability to measure success. Because, hey, let's face it, if I walk into your office and say, hey, this all sounds great, it's kind of tough to get it across the finish line if we can't show an ROI along the way, right? You've been there.
Yep.
This makes sense in theory, but we have to make sure that we tie the knot and bring everything together in that capacity.
Very good. So the concept of a dating app comes to mind. How would you visualize, what does your uh, tech, what does it show people? Is there a dashboard? I'm the CEO, I'm investing in leaders developing leaders, people developing people. I want you to stay here. I want you to be part of the culture. How do I
Yeah.
visualize that on a YouTube video? How can I visualize what I see or what happens?
Yeah, well, let's just share screen here for a second, and
Sure.
I'll walk us through a little bit of what this can actually look like. Give everybody some resources. So I'm very active on LinkedIn, and we'll share. Hey, you don't want to use the technology yet? Just check out some of the articles. You can follow me as well. There's plenty that I'm putting up there. The Latitude website is golatitude.com. We talked about that, Bill. You're like, why isn't it loud? I'm like, it's $100,000. So I said, we're not going to do that yet. And inside, you can find your way
Yep.
to the book that Bill referenced as well. But let's get into the meat and potatoes of this, of what the tech actually looks like and does. This is Pete inside an organization. For example, I work at CEO Zones. There's 1,000 other employees in my specific location. There's thousands of others across the country. We'll see what happens. Maybe you want to get to thousands at multiple locations, Bill. But regardless, I have on my dashboard the different personal board of advisors and the individuals that are guiding me, my goals, and then those tasks. A lot of times we do an employee engagement survey. Well, what happens afterwards? So the cool part about part one right here, LACE, Latitude Assessment of Connection and Engagement. You get an email, go and do this. You get a task as a reminder, go and do this. You complete it, we generate the results, we analyze the findings, and we share those to leadership and then to the organization. Make it super simple for you. You say, hey, Pete, I want to turn on the trait compass, which is the personality assessment. Want to turn that on for CEO zones. Boom, we press a button and everybody gets to complete this. I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. The mentor match survey. Isn't it nice whenever you could say, hey, you actually took some time to learn about who I am. I answered some questions and curating based on 5 different dimensions, how we connect with one another. And then it's going to suggest different people to talk to. So I can add to the board, view his profile, not a good fit. That's at a high level. My favorite part of the feature of the technology in here is the career map. So I just click into here and you can actually see my past that I've put in, my current that's here, and potential paths in the future. Okay, pretty helpful. We have an AI button that will actually guide you through. Hey, give me some ideas, Bill. What else could I do based on my past and present? My personal board can come in and add comments asynchronously. So we're able to see, hey, how many people are getting comments, adding details to their career map. And then let's talk to those individuals that we're adding to our board. So these are the folks that are guiding me along the way. And let's click on Noah, for example. So I can view his profile and come in and see their background. We can add goals for our conversation. Let's go to our calls and notes. This is where we can set those monthly reminders to have a conversation. It's going to send us a nudge. Does that ever happen to you, Bill? Whenever you're saying like, oh, son of a gun, probably not you because you're always on top of it, but it happens to me, right? Whenever I don't use Latitude and it says, oh, it's been like 5 or 6 months and I haven't caught up with Steve. Shoot, it just happened. We have our conversation talking points in here, and these change based on each of those board seats. What I ask you and you ask me, so that we're able to guide those conversations and remove those friction points. Been super helpful. We can see what this individual's personality assessment looks like. I can see their career map in here as well. So everything all in one place. The last part that I'd share for the users specifically, Bill, is that we have the short lessons in here. So guiding through the who to guide us, what to talk about, how to go through these relationships. And sometimes we might need a reminder of what's it mean to be a good mentee, mentor. But that's what Latitude does, soup to nuts all in one place.
Pretty cool. So it's beyond a dating app. It's
yeah, well, you might call the dating app for finding the best professional relationship of your future.
okay. And you mentioned, so being a skeptical CEO somewhere in my past. I don't know where that was. Somewhere I was skeptical, cost conscious, EBITDA greedy, whatever you want to call that. And I look at this and I go, well, it's really great for the people. Yeah, I might get 20, 30 retention points out of this. But what if they look at that AI tool and the AI tool says, hey, you're working at ABC and down the street is 123 Corporation. You ought to go there. What do I do as a CEO? What's my response? Do I encourage that? Which I know the answer, but I'm trying to help you here.
Yeah.
Audience. Yeah. What happens there?
Yeah, so we do have the capability to say, hey, only link this to our internal job catalog. That is possible. The other thing that I'd say is if somebody wants to go, and then we should let them go if their foot's already out the door. We should proactively be investing in them. And I liken this to the cartoon. You know, the CEO, CFO walks into the room. Hey, I'm the CFO, you're the CEO. And I say to you, hey, Bill, we're spending, all this money on our employees and, all this mentorship stuff and engagement surveys and career mapping and workshops and investing in them. What if they leave? And you say, right, well, what if we don't actually invest in them and they stay? How terrible would that be?
Exactly.
And so it's that piece of we can do so many of these things proactively early and often and integrate them to the existing workflows, right? Think about, everybody listening during your onboarding process, right? Does that just last the first hour, day, week, month? Or does it go through the first 12 months and it truly is an integration and assimilation? And we talk about the welcome wagon concept. So, who are those first 3 or 4 potential mentors that we guide folks to have conversations with? Get that first draft of their career map, get the cadence started with those different mentors and guides, the stay interviews, the manager one-on-ones, right? Ask what the metrics are around those practices inside your organization. The career map, what if we were to look at that before the performance review, which is hopefully more than just one time annual, and what if we looked at that after, so that we're able to couple growth with these things that maybe I don't think about except for the 40 minutes before I have to put them into some system that everybody gets frustrated about, manager, employee, and then nothing really happens until 12 months later. So what if we were able to do something that mattered for our people, that helped our people and got them excited? And you know what? During those stay interviews that hopefully happen at least 2 or 3 times per person per year, what if we ask them the same question that we asked them during onboarding? Bill, what motivates you? What gets you fired up? How do you like to be awarded, rewarded, recognized inside this organization? What else could we potentially be doing to help you? And where do you see opportunities for improvement here?
I like it. I'm sold, or you wouldn't be on my channel. So I like it. And I do believe that CEOs of the larger organizations understand that there's not always the next level job, or at some point the executive team's full and there isn't room for somebody. But I've seen it happen in organizations where somebody leaves under great terms. They get the little cake or cookie at lunch and they move on, even if they're only 30 years old. And then 4 or 5 years later, knock, knock, knock. Hey, could I come back? Well, what have you been doing? And it turns out they progressed even more than they could have in your organization.
Yeah.
If you're open to and receptive to that. And again, many organizations, if you leave, you're done. But other organizations that are growing and thinking, and if they're hiring character first, when that person knocks on the door and leaves with good character and continues to not show up at their picture at the post office, they're probably going to be a better rehire the second time, because this time they're not going to leave. They know what your culture is. They understand it. So I do firmly believe in investing. So where would a CEO, professional director, they go to your website? We have that up there somewhere. Let me find it again. I had it on my notes. I guess I put it in comments, so we'll show that. That's how they can find you. When they go to the website, is there a way for them to interact with the tool, learn about the tool? Do you have YouTube, anything like that, where they can learn a little bit more before they maybe knock on your door and go, hey, Pete, I know I'm here, I need you?
Yeah. So on the website, we have a bit about the difference, the ROI. We talk about the different pieces of the product: career mapping, mentorship, personal board, online course, and the surveys. We talk about some of the use cases, the blog, the book, the podcast. And I'm happy to hop on a call with any of these individuals. And I'll tell you if it's not a good fit. And I'll be sure to give you some resources to utilize for free, or even some potential worksheets, checklists to just check yourself before we dig deep into anything. And if anybody wants a little bit more curated demo that we walked through here, yeah, we're happy to do those kinds of things. If you reach out to Bill, if you reach out to me on LinkedIn, he shared the information on the website, GOLATITUDE.com, Go Latitude. There is a contact button, and it just says, hey, tell us what you're interested in and when you'd like to schedule a meeting. And there's a button on there that says, not yet. So you can even reach out to us, ask for some information, and not even schedule something. Because I think the whole way through building this and working with the team and more than 70 organizations up to this point, Bill, is why don't we build something that we want to use and that makes sense for whenever we were leading teams of 100, 200, 300 folks. And so that's what we've kept in mind. And the mission that drives all of us forward at the team here is so nobody has to navigate their professional journey alone.
Pretty cool. And I'm not trying to bring us to a close. I just wanted to keep the, most of my CEO and director friends, they lose attention every once in a while. So I kind of wanted to make sure we got their attention there for a minute. So the next kind of thought process on my mind is there a correlation between career development and what I'll call the performance or the results of that individual? So you're helping them. Some of us, the negative side of my brain would say, well, now I know where the weaknesses are that I might not have seen before, or the direct supervisor's missing. And now as the CEO, I kind of have this scale of where my weaknesses and strengths are. Is there a way to I see what you did there. Is there a way to kind of quantify that, or can I have my CHRO now come in there and go, hey, we need this kind of training across this department or this function? Does your tool give any insight into that?
Yeah, it does. And a couple of things that we can think about is when we're more connected, we're going to stay longer. So the biggest driver of all this is retention, right? And look at your voluntary turnover numbers. Typical in the United States is about 13%. So let's just do some quick math here, Bill. If we got 2,000 employees,
Yep.
13% voluntary turnover each year, that's about 260 people. Let's assume our salary is about 80 grand per year and the cost to replace is 1/3 to 2x. We'll call it 40% for back of the napkin math. So our baseline turnover cost is about 8 million per year. That's those 260 people that are leaving at about 32K per year, right? So 8 million. And the Latitude cost is way less than that. Be very clear about that. We try and get people like a 3 to 6x plus return on their investment as they're going through this. So the break-even point for that is if we were able to just help prevent 6 or 7 or 8 exits at that organization, then it's already paid for, right? It's more than 1.2x return on investment, and that could happen in the first 6 months. So let's think about it from time to fill those internal roles, right? What if I had, I'm hiring, I got 50 open roles at this organization, and what if we didn't have career maps and understand where people want to go and grow? Well, that's, I'd say, most organizations, right? Now let's flip the script. What if we did? And we're able to say, hey, we're trying to fill this position for a, senior electrical engineering manager. Okay. And did you know, by the way, that, Bill and Tim or Timmy and Jason actually wanted to do that role? They have that on their career map. And we can ask some of these other folks that have been guiding and interacting with them along the way to weigh in and say, hey, would this person be a good fit? So we don't have to spend all that money for that external talent acquisition. They already are, potentially drinking our Kool-Aid to some level. So time to fill those internal hiring positions. Let's also think about time to get up and running in a new role. If we have this support system and that connection, we're able to more effectively and succinctly hand off that institutional knowledge. So time to productivity and profitability is pretty desirable. Whenever we're able to use tech like this, imagine if we were able to save time with all the reporting or developing the training or coming up with that mentor match survey and then the reports, what's happening afterwards and following up with each of those individuals. Hey, did you have that conversation? How did it go? right? So we're trying to save time on the reporting piece and saving, 2 to 3 to 4 hours per year per employee. So there's a bunch of different ways that we feed into that. And so as a leader, right, as a CEO, think about some of those pieces. If one of the biggest reasons that folks leave an organization is no map to growth, just ask and figure out how many of our people have one and how often are they getting updated.
Exactly. So I guess another question, how do you train the executive when at some point the individual just isn't, they think they're qualified for the next step and they're not? Does your platform, your book, your experience help that CEO or that leadership team with that kind of coaching, I'll call it?
Yeah, 100%. Between us and our partners, we do, in fact, provide that guidance and support. The other piece is that's why our career map, we talk about it in 5 different dimensions: the position, the role, the title, and then we get into skill, the education and certs, the achievements and accomplishments, and some of the fun stuff, because at the end of the day, we're all real people. And so if I'm not able to progress job or title or position wise every 6, 12, 18 months, well, you're darn sure that I'm going to be able to progress in skills and achievements and accomplishments and maybe other learning opportunities along the way. And if we're able to put a bit of a plan together and say, hey, we got to do this and this and this and this and this before we get to that next step. So what our tech tries to do is help guide, well, in order to be in this role, you need to have these different skills, and you should probably get concurrence from a couple of others that you do, in fact, have those skills. And let's also face it, Bill, sometimes I have to be in a role for 2 or 3 years to achieve certain milestones, to have accomplished certain things multiple times, like an annual budgeting cycle, for example, going through an RFP, winning business, managing the project, going through the whole from, putting my PMP hat on here for a second, from, initiation of the project to close out, and ideally sharing those lessons learned as the PMP process tells us to do. So it goes through the full cycle there.
Right. Apparently the cloud's given my camera an issue, so that I am here, Pete. Honest, I am. So, thinking of the individual.
There you are. Hey.
Oh, hey, who knew? Okay, I have an idea that Alexandria probably did the fixing there, but I don't know. Thinking of the organization where they have some form of career development program. You come in, the CEO buys your services, you bring in the technology, and HR says, well, we already have this. What do you typically find that you're bringing in to actually elevate the program that they might already have, or the jump start it to another level?
Yeah, so our survey is research-backed, evidence-based, so it's not going to be any of that snake oil. We go through the full process of, hey, here's the survey piece, the report, the what it's telling you, and the potential next steps. And that's in the same place as the mentoring, where the stay interviews, the one-on-ones, the career map, everything all in one place. I haven't seen another organization or tech offering that provides that career map visualization for organizations and folks to actually be able to comment and plan out and map out literally where they want to go and then get feedback on it. And so by weaving everything into one place, oh, and by the way, you're going to have some of the guidance of, hey, how to do this, when to do this, why it works. And as we keep growing, we're going to work with organizations, right? Budget has never been a blocker to getting up and running with organizations, because that's why we do this, is to truly help folks. Also, keeping in mind that we're not doing this as a hobby, right? To the past, what did you say? The past executive, Bill, who was EBITDA hungry,
greedy, not hungry.
EBITDA greedy,
greedy.
Yeah.
We're not so greedy here at CEO Zones, but that's, I guess that's because we used to be. Now maybe we don't have to be. But anyway, um, how does how long does it take? So CEO says
Boom,
go.
let's do it. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, we just got up and running with an organization earlier today and sent over the template to fill out for users. Takes her a couple minutes to get that information. We're going to have an onboarding kickoff workshop with the organization. That's going to be about an hour. We'll have a follow on 30 minutes. Hey, here's what to expect as we go through this program. So we're about 2-3 hours in at this point. And then we have what we call office hours throughout. So in case somebody wants to come in and ask a question, right, in a safe environment, they're able to do that. We also encourage them to share success stories, because doesn't that happen to you sometimes whenever you're like, yeah, let's do this tech implementation thing, and you launch, and then what happened? So how do we continue to build that momentum and have the flywheel to continue growing, 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 growing?
Very good. At this time of year, I assume budgets are probably pretty firm for your average client, your larger organization.
Yeah.
Uh, what if they get excited, don't have a budget? What's the do you start? How do you work with them? Right.
Yeah, so we typically start with a subset or a cohort to get a group of people up and running. So it's a much lower cost. And again, if we're talking about, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's not a lot compared to the other things that I used to spend money on as a leader, right? So we'll work with you on that front, but we typically get started with maybe even just a workshop. We'll talk on our next session about the speaking opportunities. But January is National Mentoring Month, everybody. So figure out, hey, what are you doing? Happy to see if we have some room in the schedule to do something for your folks. Guide them through, hey, what's a mentor? What's a mentee? What's this idea of a PBA and a career map? How do we actually put some of these things into action? So sometimes that's an easier place to start as well, Bill, is plant the seed. What typically happens after those workshops and times together with the organization is the folks come back and say, hey, boss, hey, Bill, you think we can do some mentoring things here? You think we can, start these career map concepts? And they're like, well, I don't know. Pete, you got any ideas? I'm like, yeah, I know a thing or two about this.
Yeah. Excellent. So I guess we are getting close to that 45-minute mark now, but for everyone watching, if you want to stop having your people kind of navigating in the dark and not maybe opening their mind up to dream as big as your organization's vision could maybe fill their personal dreams. Um, at Chick-fil-A, when I was there, Truett always said, my vision has to be bigger than the collective employees at Chick-fil-A, because they have big dreams. And if I want to keep them in the family and the culture, I have to keep thinking bigger. So CEOs, you got to keep thinking bigger so you can keep the big thinkers and the big performers on your team. And coming from the consulting background, that's probably the only reason we really grew like crazy at our global consulting firms, was we had people on the team that wanted to earn more money, wanted to engage with bigger companies, wanted to make a difference, wanted to mentor people, wanted to share what they've learned, wanted to keep learning as professional learners the rest of their lives. So for everybody watching, run out to Amazon. Everybody knows where Amazon is. Get a copy of Pathfinders. Start thinking through how you can, as a leader, develop leaders. Tremendous book. I did get to read it while I was to and from Greece this summer, or this fall, whenever that was. Seems like a long time ago now, but I bet you Alexandria just went, it was just, you just got back. But anyway, so you can start to fill out that puzzle of how does your vision be big enough to support the vision of all the people. And you just have heard from Pete, who started his own company, but not too many years ago, he was making bombs and robots. And now he's out there truly trying to help people figure out how to be even more and be more inside what they want to do, inside getting results for you at your company. So please reach
And
out.
one last piece on that, Bill, is You talked about those rock stars and the hypos and the people that want to continue climbing the ladder. Not
Yep.
everybody's going to want to do that at every single phase of their life. And this
Sure.
gives an opportunity to say, hey, maybe I need to pull back and take care of a loved one or a sick relative. Maybe I need to grow my own family and I'm in my second trimester or something and figure out, hey, how can I go through these higher stress, lower stress phases and chapters of my journey through this? And how do
Mm.
we continue to grow? We don't need 10 CEOs at the same time, but how can we think about proactive succession planning with this methodology in mind?
Excellent point. Why didn't I think of that? That's pretty good stuff there, Pete. That was, you just taught me something that I need to go do. All right. So I'm Bill Forster, the CEO of CEO Zones, your exclusive community for chief executive officers and professional directors. Thank you, Pete. I really enjoyed it. Seems like every time you teach me something else, young fella. So keep going.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Please go and engage and interact with Bill's content here so that we can continue sharing and helping others. And him and the team do an awesome job. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.